if you are in your 40s or late 40s or maybe even early 50s and you feel that you are at the peak, but there is something off, the same work that created a lot of energy and momentum, that is no more there, and the work feels more heavier, more heavy lifting, and it kind of feels that the spark is missing, and in a way there is underlying, there's something happening which you can't exactly pinpoint and say that this is the problem. If this is the case, stay with me, because I'm going to talk about why this feeling of decline is there and why there is more ahead, and this is not the end of your career. And I'm also going to explain to you how to transition from this state of your mind where you're feeling heavier, something is missing, the spark is missing, and you are unable to move faster and do the hustle, and you feel that is this end of my career. I have gone through that phase, and I'm going to share that with you, why this feeling is. So stay with me in this. When I hit my 40s, or rather mid 40s, and I was doing great in a corporate career, in a senior executive position, and at some point of time, I started feeling there is something missing. There is, I don't enjoy that work that I used to do once, and as a result of that, often I felt like cut off. And when I did a bit of deep dive analysis, what I figured is that there is more to this issue. Basically, what I was looking at underneath is that I was looking for freedom, and that's where I discovered that that freedom I wasn't really enjoying at work, especially after 45. Um, and that's when I kept pushing myself. I worked more harder. I spent more midnight oil, to the extent that I almost got burned out. But uh, almost like feeling like I'm not part of the quorum anymore. I was not part of the regular gang anymore. I just wanted more space for myself. I wanted to slow down. I wanted to do my work in a way that I enjoy. And I was trying to figure out what is that I'm going to be enjoying. But I was struggling. This wasn't that easy phase of my mind, because there was a bit of insecurity at job. I was on the other side of the 40s. I could clearly see the folks that I work with, the younger folks. They're fast, they're more innovative, and they can quickly come up with more ideas, and they quickly can execute that. And not that I wasn't able to, but there was something that I felt that was missing, and that's probably the insecurity and the fire and the spark, right? Um, so while I was struggling with that, I spoke to a lot of people, and eventually I came across this concept called first curve and second curve. This was a concept came from Arthur Brooks, who is Harvard professor, and he himself had a very interesting life or career trajectory. So Arthur, in his book called Strength to Strength, explained a concept called first curve and second curve in your career. When you are in 20s and 30s, you are essentially crossing your first curve, where you are fast, you're innovative, you have a lot more energy, and essentially your brain is able to quickly process something and come up with newer ideas, execute it very fast. And that is basically is a sort of intelligence. He calls it fluid intelligence. And fluid intelligence, which is part of the curve one, essentially is basically a concept that Arthur said is very usual between your 20s and 30s. As you enter 40s, your own cognitive abilities starts declining, and it's not just cognitive abilities but your own mindset, because you might have, by the time you are in mid 40s, you may have spent over 20 years. I spent over 20 years in my profession by then, and I was kind of feeling like there is no more value that I'm able to add to my own profession where I spent 20 plus years. I came across this book, and he talks about the second curve, which is basically the end of first curve, which is somewhere in the early 40s. And he said that if you really want to enjoy a long and sustainable career, in that case, enjoy your work for continue. If you want to continue to enjoy your work for a long period, in that case, move or transition to the second curve. And the second curve is essentially is what he calls is crystallized intelligence. Now, what is crystallized intelligence is that you have accumulated years of experience. In my case, it was 20 plus years of experience. And if you are in your mid 40s, probably you by then have already crossed 20 years of your work life. So you have certain domain expertise, you have certain technical expertise, you may have some functional expertise and skills. Along with that, you have experience of 20 plus years. And by virtue of you have spent 20 plus years, you might have had faced many circumstances and situations that you know that the or the younger population or the next generation of professionals shouldn't face. So, so essentially, this is the phase where Arthur suggests that if you can transition to a new career, like become a consultant, or become a coach, or become a mentor, or become a teacher, these are the the type of positions where you continue to be on top of your game. You continue to be in your domain, but playing a different role altogether. Instead of becoming in a driver's seat and execution seat, you can basically take up a mentor role or a teacher role or a coach role. And um, and that's exactly something that is what is called second curve. So I chanced on that, I thought about it, and it sounded really practical and reasonable. Probably something that I was going through. So I planned and I slowly and gradually transitioned. I quit my corporate job almost when I was 48, and I decided to become an independent consultant in my area, which is marketing, where I spent many number of years. And incidentally, I also spent in another domain a few years, which is customer success or account management. So I had a good experience of spending time in with customers in customer facing role in the tech industry. And then I also had a good experience of um, doing the actual marketing and strategy work. So combining this, I decided to build a consulting career. And ultimately I transitioned to a full-time um, marketing and strategy consultant. And since then, life has completely changed for me. I have been able to make some good money. um, I have immense amount of freedom, both in terms of the way I work, the time I work, and the people that I work with. So this was something that I really was missing, and I kind of felt that it is the need of this particular age, at a particular time of my career. So I think if you are in the similar position, take a look at this book, Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, where he specifically talks about this framework where the first curve, you spend most of your time doing innovation, quick thinking, turning into execution, in experiments and so on. Applied yourself more from a driver's seat. Um, but as you have hit 45, 50, maybe even 50 plus, if you are experiencing something like this, read Arthur Brooks' Strength to Strength, where he explains the fluid intelligence and the crystallized intelligence. And the crystallized intelligence, which is the second curve, if you want to really extend your work, and I think in today's time and day, it is important for many of us to continue to work just because, not just because only of financial reason, because we have a longer lifespan and we want to be meaningful. We want to feel that we are being useful to something, to an industry, to to our profession, and lead a meaningful life. So when today I consult a lot of startup founders, um, I work with them, uh, and sort of coach them and train them and offer my consulting in terms of how they can build a growth trajectory for their company, their products, and their services. So yeah, that's about it for this video. If you think this was useful, I'm going to talk about a little bit more in my other videos in terms of how can you transition into a consulting role, or maybe even a teaching role or a mentor role, um, and how you can feel more meaningful and lead a more meaningful and purposeful life and feel more fulfilled, um, when you are in the late 40s or early 50s, or even maybe even 50s and even 60s, and you can extend your work life. And if this is something that is useful and helpful, and you feel that this is something that um, made a or created a tinkering thought in your mind, I would love you to subscribe to my channel. My name is Jaideep, and I will see you in another video.